Welcome to the newest episode of All Things LOCS. Now, today we're going to be talking about some of the common business advice that you hear from gurus, whether on the news or across social media, that a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, they just take it for verbatim. It's, the gospel. And we're going to be talking about how some of those beliefs and sayings and phrases, when applied, can actually be very detrimental to your business. So this is something that you guys don't want to miss. We'll see you there. Yeah, so when we're talking about common business advice or maybe phrases or tips, right, that people just accept.
Worst advice we've ever heard.
It's like
and this is like across gurus, consultants, industries. We saw some stuff where we're like, what?
One of the things, I'm going to be honest, man, if you don't mind me getting kicked off with this, but one of the things that definitely frustrates me with the thought process is that in order to be successful as an entrepreneur or in a business, you have to fail a ton.
I've definitely heard that.
And I really don't like that. I get it that failure for most people, I really can't think of a lot of things that first try, it's all right, we nailed it. But I also think that it makes people, if something's working, it almost is, all right, this is kind of too easy. I didn't struggle enough. This wasn't hard enough. It didn't take me 5 years to figure this out. So I do think it can kind of F with people's mentality sometimes when they have something that's really solid and working, but it's just, well, I didn't struggle enough, so it's got to be a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely one thing that really, bothers me a lot, especially and this isn't just for healthcare, because in healthcare is obviously a bigger focus on not failing. You had mentioned a long time ago, like, well, you got to be perfect sometimes if you're doing the brain surgery. Don't fail there. But
yeah, let's fail our way.
Yeah,
like a knee replacement.
It's
like,
just
no.
But it's knowing, but it says just this aspect of, all right, I can create something that works really well, and my goal should not be to fail. I see so many people on social media where they're proud of how many times they fail, and I'm like, bro, like I get it, that takes some resilience to bounce back from that, but all right, that's not the name of the game here. The name of the game is actually to succeed and help people and bring value.
Where do you think that comes from with you? Because I know you've gone to medical school, all that stuff. And because I do see it kind of being a positive where like there's a lot of people that are afraid to fail.
Yes.
Like, and that's kind of a key thing there is that I think people's definition and meaning of failure, having a Korean wife and what Koreans think of failure is so bad. And where like it's just this, people rather be dead than fail in some cultures. Like I would rather die than be a failure to my family.
But they don't live by, like, they're not proud of the fact that they failed over and over again. They're like, I'm going to make this shit work and succeed.
Yeah. So I think it's a good thing where when someone's saying like fail forward or, fail fast, like I get it from one side of it is like find out what works immediately. And usually what happens is that people don't get it the first time. So cool, didn't work, next, 100%. And find it, right? So the whole like, Edison thing with like getting the light bulb. Now I get that. But what if Edison got it the first time? Or the
10th? Yeah,
or the 10th time. Yes. And it's like, so I do think like with hustle and grind, like culture, that part of things is maybe kind of put on a pedestal.
Yes.
I don't think that's required.
Where
like
you're saying it comes from, a lot of it is social media for sure.
Social media.
But it's just, here's how many times I failed, and if you're not failing a ton like me, you're not doing it right. It's like, that's, everybody has their own path. To your point, it's like, all right, I don't need to fail 10,000 times. I could have figured it out on time, number 10, and it would have worked.
Yeah, and it also defeats the purpose of like the gurus and the consultants where it's like, no, then I don't need you.
Yeah.
So what's the point of hiring a coach or a consultant or following a guru and applying what they say if I'm going to take just as long as they did to figure it out? Like the reason why that I'm following you is so I can compress that time and avoid a lot of those failures and making it smaller. So it's this interesting paradox, and I've never really liked that myself either.
Yeah. So that's one for me. What about you?
I would say like one of them has to do with the thing that I've never liked. I'm going to call it like EOS. EOS is the if you guys read the book Traction, people love the book Traction, and I think there's a lot of really good elements in there. So I'm not going to take a full steamy dump on it. I think it's a really good read. But there's one of the key things that I feel organizations really don't dial in enough, and a lot of them just don't do it all together, which is value alignment and identifying the values of the business and the organization. And in EOS, it had something along the lines of like, find your top 3 employees and figure out what makes them so great. And then those are your business's values. And I think that is so bad of like how you do that. When you're extracting values, it is actually, to me, deep internal work that has to be done on behalf of the owners. Whether it's just you or you and a wife or you and a partner or you and a business or you and a brother or whatever, is that actually value identification is really deep work that you shouldn't kind of leave it onto someone else, an employee. And I think there's a different process of extracting that and living by it, living like you're willing to die for these values, not because Jim over here is a really good salesman and perseverance is a big thing for him. It doesn't mean like that should be the ethos of your company. And so I feel like that actually gets it wrong. So when I talk to these business owners that, yeah, they may have read Traction or they worked with EOS or whatever it is, and you're like, man, you're bringing in some pretty average employees, or this turnover is kind of wild. Like, what are your values? And they have these 15 different things. And I'm like, man, you actually don't have them nailed down. Which one's inherent and which one's aspirational? And they don't have those things nailed down. So I think that that's like a really poor approach, because I think if you get those things locked in with your company, there's standards that now are going to be in place that are going to be an extension of you.
So let me ask you a question. What's a good number? And maybe it's a silly question, but what's a good number for companies like, I'm just starting out, I need to figure out my core values or my standards? What would you say is, all right, here's a good amount to actually dial in and focus on?
3 to 5. 3 to 5. When I see someone's website and they have like 9 different core values, I'm like, you don't have it, because there's some core values that are being that are public facing and that are also internal with an organization that mean the same thing. It's like honesty, integrity, transparency. It's like, what are truthfulness? Yeah. Not lying. And it's like, you guys are kind of saying the same thing over and over. I say 3 to 5. Like, what are the 3 to 5 things that you as an individual are willing to die for? That gun to your head, you would rather choose death than to defy these. And that is a standard that you can hold, because now the accountability perspective of this with your team is going to be tough. It's going to be good. It's going to be strong. It's going to be bulletproof, which is kind of what the whole point is. Yeah. Like, like if you think of the values of the Marine Corps, and they're like, they have 15 different core values. It's like, no, they got a handful, and you're either in it or you're fucking out. Same thing with sports teams or whatever. So I don't think your business should be any different. And I don't think you should have that approach. And I think it's so stupid, and I think it's so dumb. And I think if business owners took more accountability and responsibility for developing their own values through deep work, I think they're going to have a much better business. Because if you just did this one thing with your company, which was, if you enforced the clear boundaries of your business, you'd have a better business. Yeah. People get away with too much. And if you had a clear black and white line, I think your business would be better.
Non-negotiables. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you're letting the employees dictate the culture, you're going to get what you tolerate.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you cannot tolerate it.
Yeah. I like that one. Here's, there's a lot of stuff out there now. I mean, we've talked about it on a few episodes about the wealth transfer that's going on in the United States, where, over the next few years, it's about a $68 trillion transfer of wealth. So when we're talking about, buying businesses, especially you see that a lot in healthcare, where it's, all right, can I, maybe I'm making a halfway decent salary. It depends on what, specialty you're in, obviously. But I'm making a decent amount. What do I do with my money? Or how do I maybe start building some passive income on the side? So in case something happens where I'm working out, I got something to cover me. So it's this aspect of, I'll just buy a boring business. And like, what business is boring? Like what business has nothing go wrong, where everything works 100% of the time? So like that shit where it's like, hey, you're, orthopedic surgeon, go buy that laundromat, 2,000 miles away, you'll be fine. And then, all right, shit's breaking, what do I do? Mm-hmm. Or buy the HVAC company. It's like, that's one of the things that's really kind of pissing me off, because it sets a lot of people up for failure, because they think it'll be easy. That's what boring, I think, denotes. It's like, this will be an easy opportunity for you. And then the person maybe has no business experience, and then they have no idea how to run this industry. So that's one thing that really Peter Griffin would say, it really grinds my gears, but it's just, labeling things in a way that makes it sound a lot easier when at the end of the day, it's still a business.
Yeah. So that's something that really pisses me off too as well. And a big reason for that is because we're essentially talking about M&A and operations, right? So when
M&A
you're
being
mergers and acquisitions. So when you are buying or selling a business or merging a business, right? Two different companies coming together. And I don't like it, but let's look at it from the perspective of the gurus that are doing that, is that they have something to sell. And so if it's like, this is really, 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 really difficult, like, no, it's easy. You can get into a business. It just has to be boring. It has to be simple and this and that. And so people get into that and they may acquire something, and they may acquire there's opportunities everywhere. But here's what makes or breaks the organization. The business that you're buying is the deal structure. You can have a seller finance deal. You can have like a loan. But if you don't know how to properly price a business, or maybe even underwrite it, like have some elements of underwriting it where you can actually understand where everything is placed. You're looking at the accounts payable, accounts receivable, what's the cash on hand, what's the EBITDA, what's the SDE, what's the adjusted EBITDA, like and actually have the story, because those are just the numbers, but there's a story behind it, that the opportunities are there, but they're getting involved into bad business deals where they're getting screwed on the back end. And that's not talked about enough. No. I see that left and right, where people go to certain places and then they're like, wow, I thought this person was polished. They sounded good. Yeah. They look good. They it makes sense. There seems to be a track record, but man, when I did it, I really got hurt. Yeah. And then my house is upside down. My credit cards are maxed because I didn't see this side of the deal, and I got fleeced on it because I wasn't educated on that.
There's this
that sucks.
Yeah, there's this doctor on LinkedIn. Never met the guy, so I don't know how his business is actually doing, but he gets a ton of engagement on LinkedIn, whatever. He disappeared for a few months. And then he popped back on. It was about 6 months later. He pops back on. And the first post he writes is, hey, I've been gone off of social media because I bought a plumbing business. He's not a plumber. He's a doctor. I bought a plumbing business, and it almost financially ruined my family because I didn't know what the hell to do. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like shit like that. So it's like, again, you have gurus like, hey, it's an easy plumbing business. You'll be fine. It's, one of those blue-collar jobs that, everybody needs. AI can't replace it. It's like, that's cool. Let me plunk in maybe a few $100,000. And I was like, oh, shit, I lost it, and now what?
Yeah, so that's another thing that really grinds my gears is the so I was actually looking at a plumbing company here in town too to buy, and one of the things that were a big red flag that I think for me, I know I'm not touching this. And one of them is that the owner who sells it at close, they will do 2 weeks of training and then they're out. And I'm like, 2 weeks of training?
That's nothing.
And with the broker, and this was a plumbing company too, and with the brokers, like, that's a non-negotiable for the owner. And you're like, okay, you mean to tell me that we're going to shell out $3 million for this company, and that the owner is going to leave in 10 business days, and then off to the sunset, and that's it. To me, like, and you have to, someone can get into that, be like, cool, I have 2 weeks. And I'm like, no, for something like that, you want to negotiate a lot longer, give yourself a longer runway, minimum 90 days. And and also have some stipulations in the agreement that, like, hey, if in me getting into it and I did not get what you said I had, then there could be repercussions. There'd be consequences for that, whether it's a reduction in pay or whether it's this or whatever, that you can have those things in place where I'm holding them accountable and it's in a contract. So, and people just don't know, like, you could do that because they weren't trained to do that. And that's because the gurus are like, they got a plumbing business. Hey, good job. And it's like, dude, now with that doctor, it's like, I do believe with the right training, that doctor could totally run a plumbing 100%. Yeah. So something fell there, and that especially after 2 months of him being gone, I'm like, there was some kind of gap. And that's where I think people need to hold the broker accountable, but also whoever you're buying it from, making sure you have a good runway. And if you don't have these things in place, I can back out or I can do this.
So just know there's no such thing as a boring business.
Yeah, it's all relative. Like if you've never owned a business before, and whether it's a car wash or whatever it is, do you really think it's going to be boring? It's going to be you're going to be on the edge of your seat until you get into a rhythm.
Everything, I always say, man, everything's easy when it's going really well.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just when shit falls apart, it's like people who were day trading during the early days of COVID saying, I'm a fucking stock trader because the stock market was skyrocketing. And then come the Russian-Ukraine invasion and the stock market got destroyed. What happened to all those people? They're like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing. And now I just lost more than what I invested in.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the business too, man. It's like everything's easy when it's easy.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
Yeah, we saw that like in real estate, 2020 and so on, where like anybody can get a real estate license and they're slinging these deals left and right. And then now, you have to be skilled.
Six-figure agents who are poor as hell now.
Yeah, yeah. So like now, like you have to be skilled. You have to have a pipeline. You got to get out there, and that's what separates like those really really great realtors from the ones that just have a license and they can get some deals here and there. But when it's tight, that separates the amazing realtors from the people that are below average.
Yeah. All right, you up? What's next?
So, what's something that really, really pisses me off with these gurus, with these coaches, with these other consultants? I'll say something that actually pisses me off when it comes to other brokers. So like business brokers specifically. I think we might have to kind of edit this one because I'm like running through a couple ideas.
Want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that really frustrates me, you hear this from, I think there's a dichotomy when we look at owners just starting out in a business. You have those people who they're learning everything, right? They're in every department because essentially they're the whole business. The advice that I've heard from some gurus that I don't fully agree with, and is just don't do any of that stuff. Like don't do the stuff that you don't want to do. Just be almost like the visionary, and that's where and I think that trips some people up where it's like, oh, I'm just a visionary here. I don't need to, I'll just delegate everything. It's like, but then it's like, you don't have a business, you don't have a company yet. Like you have to actually learn this stuff. If you're not making any money, how you hiring people to do all that? But then if that person, you say, I have money, I can hire the VA or I can hire an employee to do that because I just don't like doing it. All right, but what happens if that person leaves? What happens if they quit and you don't know what to do? Then you're screwed. So when I look at the advice that some people throw out there, like, don't do the crap that you don't like doing, it's like, I think that's the goal, right? It's like the owner, like you called me out on this shit a while back. It's like, the owner who's making a certain amount of money shouldn't be the person who's like really just doing social media. It's like, that's a stupid waste of time. It's like, that's the kind of stuff you should offload. But at the beginning, it's like, all right, maybe you need to be doing that because you're not really bringing in any revenue. So that's one thing that actually, at least for me, definitely frustrates me. I'm just like, bro, you got to go all in, learn all this crap. So if you ever have to step up, or maybe, God forbid, we have another pandemic and you got to get rid of all your staff, who's running this shit now? Like, do you know what to do, or are you just lost without basically your whole staff?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. If you look at the most respected business owners in the world, or even CEOs, if you look at Fortune 500 CEOs, they know a lot about finance. They know a lot about marketing. They know a lot about logistics and value chains. They know a lot about sales.
Yep.
They know, they are very well-rounded people. And if you threw just any random Fortune 500 CEO into your business, they're going to make something work because they understand things. So they're able to hold people accountable a lot different. They're able to tweak work. They're able to not only cast a vision, but even just formulate a plan on the execution of the vision where they have a role in the whole thing too. So I do think that there are a lot of books out there and a lot of kind of regurgitated approaches because it again, kind of going back to what I said with the gurus of it's supposed to be easy. Yeah. You could offload it. You could install my AI software or like my agency of VAs or do this or do that and make your life easier. And to an extent, that is very much true.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it as well is that if you don't know those departments, you don't know how to navigate those departments, it's wise to be well-rounded. The best CEOs are very, very well-rounded. They have their area of genius, but they know a little bit of everything. And if you're kind of in there where you are being pulled to like, you just need to be a visionary or you just need to be this, it's like visionaries are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
it's so easy to teach someone to be a visionary. But if you are a skilled operator, those are so hard to come by.
Yeah. And I'm definitely advocating to delegate as much as is appropriate to delegate, right? But it's just a matter of like, well, I just don't want to do it. It's like, okay, but you don't want to do it, but it's necessary for the moment. You know, so it's just knowing when to step up, and then also, all right, when do I need to maybe release this and give it away? You know, oh my God, what's the show? Bar Rescue, which is, you know, a guy's based in Vegas, but he goes all across the country. And I remember I was watching one episode. I mean, I used to watch that shit back in the day, but how many times can you watch somebody just yell at owners all the time? But he got into it with an owner because he was at a bar and the guy didn't know how to make anything. He's like, what if your bartenders call out? What do? You don't know how to make anything here. You don't know how to make. He's like,
make me a Mai Tai right now because I need it.
That's what he said. He's like, I don't know how to make that. So like, all right, make me his drink. He's like, I don't know how to make that. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, you're the bar manager and you don't know how to make anything. This person calls out. How do you actually service your customers that night? He's like, I don't know. Yeah. Like that's, you're shirking your responsibilities. You're just standing around here doing nothing. So that's kind of how I look at it. Is like, do you have the skills to step in if necessary? But understanding, all right, I could delegate when it's appropriate. So that's definitely one for me.
Here's something that I hear with coaches that kind of piss me off too as well. Is there's a lot to advocate for you just to read a handful of books over and over and over and over again. And I've always felt like that's not, I've never liked that. It's just me. I've never not liked it. Now I totally get, there's the application and execution of the stuff that you learned. Okay. Now with that aside, if let's just say you have like these top 5 business books where people tend to throw in like what Think and Grow Rich, they throw in maybe like 100 million offers. They throw in like How to Win Friends and Influence People. Maybe a couple other ones, right? And then like, that's all I read. I read these ones over and over and over and over again. Like, okay, cool. So imagine like if you had those same 5 books and you read them like 10 times over, right? So 50, right? Altogether, just you're there. It's in like a round robin versus someone else that they've read 50 different books from different places. If you quiz them at the end of all that, and they read like stuff from Robert Cialdini, they read stuff from also Alex Hormozi, got into Cardone stuff, older things, right? Ben Horowitz, the list goes on, right? Yeah. At the end of that, who do you think is going to probably have a better understanding of business, if that's what they're doing? Psychology and everything else versus just regurgitating the same 5 things.
Yeah, I feel like people get tripped up where I think we can all, people who are really successful, I do think they go back to certain books, right? But it's not, all right, I just keep rereading it. It's like, well, like what's the one you love? And I love it too. Never Split the Difference, right? That's a book. It's like, all right, you know what? It's been maybe 2 or 3 years. Let me just go revisit it. Yeah, and go over it again. Like there's maybe some stuff that I forgot.
But I think that's different versus different. Like you're having you're having that one that you're like every 4th time you're about to read or 5th time you're about to read, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's not on repeat. It's just there's some principles maybe I forgot or got away from. Let me go back to it. Just make sure I dial in on that. That's definitely very different.
So I personally don't like it because I feel like the thing that you gain when you're reading a ton of different stuff is that you're able to connect various dots that you can't do with just rereading the same book or the same 3 books or 5 books over and over again and just be really good at execution. It's like, well, if you're like, you can have someone that goes into grade school and they're repeating the 5th grade over and over again in 5th grade math. Like at some point you're going to have to stretch and give them more things. And I think consultants and coaches and CEOs and leadership, like you should do that. I think you should read things that are outside of what you have so that your brain can connect the dots with different industries from different people with different voices, with different tone, with different experiences. And then you're like, oh, so when something does happen, like another COVID or a war or a tariff war or whatever else, is that now you have so much depth in what you've read that you're like, okay, I could take a piece of this, and curate something specific for me, for my business, because I've dove into so many things.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, dude, running a business, whether you're actually the owner or maybe a director or manager, it's more than just, all right, what are the business principles, right? You need to understand the foundational, but it's just what actually goes into running a business. A lot of psychology, what you just described in terms of a lot of uncertainty. So how do you deal with the emotional aspect of it? How do you connect with people? How do you collaborate, communicate? So it's all that stuff. Like, all right, well, I'm not getting all of that from the 5 same books, especially if the 5 same books I'm reading are very tactical on business principles and application. Like that's a huge, but then, all right, I'm great at the business. Then my staff hate my guts because I treat them like a piece of crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know how to connect with people, and my retention sucks. My culture's garbage. So yeah, to your point, it's a matter of how do you create a well-rounded individual, and that's where when we're looking at the people at the top, it's like those are best of the best, right? It's like all right, I'm a well-rounded person. I know how to connect with people at my level.
I would say like those folks. Okay, so like what the average Fortune 500 CEO reads how many books per year? It's like about 50. I doubt that they're reading the same ones over and over. So like, okay. So when I hear these other gurus saying, all right, you just need to read this over and over and be an excellent implementer and just execute. And I was like, okay, that's
part of it. But
that is part of it on that level and on that level. But that to me is more of a mindset thing. That's someone that like, we call it like a knowing doing gap, that you know what you need to do and what's that gap of actually doing it. So if someone is really, really good at that and they have a ton of different things they can pull from, they have a great arsenal, I think they're far more dangerous. They're far more effective. They're far more valuable. And I think that they're also more versatile and they're more resilient to economic changes that can be affecting their business. So if you're hearing someone saying like, oh, read the same thing over and over again, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I think that's weak. Yeah.
The other, for me at least, another piece of advice, and I know there's a ton of people who would completely disagree, but I just think this is very situation-based, but gets thrown out as it's 100%, is the adage of hire slowly and fire fast. And for me, I think it needs to be situational because I do think there's just people, especially nowadays, man, like younger staff, we've talked about them a ton lately, but the younger generation is just very different in terms of incorporating with, not just a workforce, but a workforce that's maybe older than them. And I do think that aspect of, I firmly believe in taking your time to hire. Like there's definitely times where, employees will come up to me like, why are we still short-handed? And I was like, I want to make sure I get the right fit. I'm not trying to rush it. It's like going grocery shopping when you're hungry. Terrible mistake, just like hiring really fast. But then I know there's been times where people have told me, like, why do we still have this person? And then I gave them some time, and they had to come out of their shell. It wasn't negligent. They weren't low on the IQ scale. It was just they had a hard time kind of fitting in. And so I was like, all right, why are we giving this person an opportunity? And then they blossomed into something really awesome. Then there were times where I did get rid of somebody kind of quick. So I just do think it's some people can take that as a very blanket statement. It's just, all right, you're not working out, let me fucking fire you. Versus, all right, let me find out why this isn't working. How's the training going? Did we even do an onboarding? Talked about that a lot, right? It's like, do you have a 90-day onboarding for this person? No. All right, then maybe they're failing because you didn't train them right. Or maybe just throw them right into it, saying that's how I learned. Well, maybe that's not how that person learned. So that's one thing that really, it irks me a little bit when people just take that as 100% all or none.
Yeah, because people are not so black and white. Like, there's so many stories of people that have blossomed into something absolutely incredible just because when they got like not only a second chance, maybe it's not the best way to put a second chance, but that they had an alignment.
Yeah.
I'll put myself on blast. Like I've certainly gotten checked when I had this job, like, gosh, I don't know how many, it was like maybe over 10 years ago, was I started this job. And about a week later, I had a sit down with the person that hired us or that hired me. And basically in so many words, we're like, hey, we hired you for this, and we're not really seeing what I thought you had. And I'm kind of seeing a little bit more of this. What did I miss here? Okay. Or what's going on? And so that past week, it was like training. And it was something along the lines of like, you're coming across very intense, Antonio. You're not really doing this. Like the personality that I felt was going to be a really, really good fit for this team is not showcasing itself at all. So what I got from you in the hiring process was like, this guy, I want him on the squad. And then this past week of training, I'm like, this guy's an asshole. What's going on? Mm-hmm. And so he asked me, and I had no idea. And what ended up happening was like when I'm in when I'm in learning mode, I shut up, I take a back seat, I'm here to absorb everything, and I'm just quiet. I want to listen to you, and I want to take notes, and I'm just there. I'm taking in everything. And they misinterpreted that as me being disinterested. me being cold and what's the word, like not very kind of off-putting and standoffish. Yeah. And they were like, "What is that? What is this shit?" And I'm like, I'm just kind of in learn mode. And they're like, "Okay." so sometimes it took that, because after that it was like a really, really good relationship. But it's them not just jumping the gun and be like, "All right, you're out." Yeah. It was like, "Hey man, what's going on? I saw this. I'm noticing this. What did I miss? Where am I off? I want that guy. Why is this person showing up?"
You know, it's funny that as you're telling that story, and I haven't thought about this in well over 10 years. So that's just interesting. I jogged my memory, but I remember my first job. It was something similar, and I was very quiet back in the day.
Like painfully quiet.
Yeah. So
is he breathing? Is he alive?
Nobody said anything, but I found out like a few years into my career working at this clinic, and I forget who just told me, but they were like, I remember when you first started here, they almost fired you. I was like, seriously?
Me?
Yeah, but then this is at the point where I was actually the director, like the director of the company. They're like, yeah, they almost fired you because of just how quiet you were. They thought you were maybe a bad fit, like kind of personality. And I was like, damn, bro. But I was like, so even when we think about firing people for maybe negligence or they're just inept, like how many times does that happen where it's like, like you said, we thought you were maybe this personality, but you're kind of showing up this way. So maybe this isn't really a good fit for our culture. So let's just get rid of you. Yeah. And then lo and behold, I ended up turning into a really awesome clinician. Like, clinic never would have done as well if they got rid of me. So it's just like stuff that people.
That's right.
It's the truth.
It wouldn't have happened.
It's the truth. But at the end of the day, it's like how many people out there just do that too. It's like solid person, but just not a good fit, and they don't give them enough time to actually just kind of show their truth.
Yeah, I would say that's something that pisses me off with some CEOs too. That I've definitely worked with, where they're quick to fire without understanding why.
Yes. And
so they have this turnover rate that's going on with their company. Like, that's not working. And you're like, have you asked them have you done like a exit interview? Yeah. They're like, no. Well, how many years have you ever done an exit interview? Like, never. Okay. So you mean to tell me that as long as the business has been alive for these like past 5 years, that turnover rate, which is incredibly high for this particular role, working with you, you've never done an exit interview. You don't know why they're leaving. No. Like, I gotta slap the shit out of you right now, dude. Like, are you fucking serious? Like, you're not gonna ask them like, hey, what were some of the things? And so we had them actually go back and email, especially ones that were most recent, like, hey, things didn't work out. It would mean a lot, or we could send you this if you fill this out and just kind of let us know what were some of the reasons why, anything that we could do better. We want to improve the organization for any of the future employees, anything we could do, just like basically the stuff you would want to ask. And now they actually got data, and then now they were able to make some adjustments so they can keep people, because people love recognition. People want to make sure that they're seen, that they're heard, that they could troubleshoot things, and they just weren't getting that in a particular department working with a particular manager. And so high turnover rate. And it's like, you're so quick to just do that, but not look that maybe you're the problem. Yeah. That sucks.
But to your point, dude, is also understanding, all right, what, talking to the employee, like what's going on here, trying to just understand, their side of it too. And then being able to create almost I don't know, man, what's it called? Like a personal improvement plan. Like, being able to sit down, like, all right, let's find out why you're struggling, and let's put these things in place to help you get better. So it's also helping, keep yourself accountable. It's keeping them accountable too. It's like, all right, if they made a mistake, let's talk about why that happened. But it's also understand that you can't have that happen again. And me and you talk a lot about this. Is what are maybe, I don't want to say repercussions, but do they understand they screwed up? Do they understand what's going to happen? Kind of going forward, are they getting written up? Are they having a conversation? If they make the same thing again, it's like, all right, that I'm gonna have to terminate you if you make them stay, because it's maybe hurting somebody, especially in healthcare. It's like you're actually hurting a patient by doing that. So I just think it's a matter of understanding them and then giving them more or less a warning, or at least some clear understanding of like, this is kind of the next step that's gonna happen, before you just like, all right, like today was it, you're fired, and that person's like shell shocked, like, why'd this happen?
Yeah. Here's one more thing from me that really pisses me off with probably everybody, with consultants, with gurus, with coaches, is this kind of overemphasis on tunnel vision. I think tunnel vision has its place, but the wealthiest people I've ever worked with, they know what they're saying no to. They know it. So you have some folks who are like, it's like this no culture. Like, no, I'm focused on these goals. I get that. But especially when you're kind of in a leadership position, or where you're working with, you're running a business, sometimes some of these no things that you have a knee-jerk reaction, like, no, and you haven't vetted it or explored it, that could be the thing that can catapult your business. But because you're of that frame of mind, you're just closed off to everything. And I don't think that's a really good vibration to be in. I think it's great to be locked in on some stuff. But I really do feel like when people expand on their vision and they actually vet something and they entertain something, they could come across the thing that could provide a quantum leap.
Now, you might disagree, but to me that sounds like very common advice of you have to have boundaries. Like, it's almost, that's what it kind of sounds like to me. Like, are you allowing somebody to violate your boundaries, or versus, to your point, it's like, well, I'm just focused on this thing and I got to say no to all that stuff, even though it might be a great opportunity for me.
But that's the thing, is like, it's a great, okay. So if, how do we know it could be a great opportunity? Yeah. Right. And what does it do to your goal? Like, you could have an opportunity that comes your way that you have a poor attitude on, because you're like, I need to do it this way and this way alone. To me, that's very rigid.
Yes.
But maybe there's an opportunity, or there's a situation that comes across your direction. We're like, wow, this thing can actually help me take my 5-year goal and bring it down to 2.5. Oh, and here I am very close to discarding it.
Yep.
Or here I am like doing this because I'm so focused on doing it this particular way. And I don't like it when people do that. I cannot stand it, because when you get things that are coming in your direction, like, you're going to have to say no to stuff. But like I said, the people that I tend to respect the most is that smart business owners. They know what they're saying no to.
Yes.
People shoot themselves in the foot, like, oh, I wish I would have gotten in on that deal, or oh, I wish I would have done, and it's like, well, why didn't you? Like, oh, well, because I was just closed-minded.
Yeah, don't say no.
I just didn't want to look at it. And you're like, well, that's on you then.
Yeah.
And imagine if you did and you entertained it, and things turned out better, and you would have had a 10x business or whatever it is, simply because you were open-minded.
Yeah. So it's just, it's also, the pendulum always swings to the complete opposite, right? So if we go from maybe a culture of, hey, I say yes to everything, which is like a lot of business owners have that mentality, and then they get burned out. So then the gurus say, you gotta say no. So then they say no to everything, to your point. So it's really understanding, all right, how do I find a middle ground of what's an automatic no for me? And that sounds like we described, like, what's an automatic no, and what's I'm open to learning more about it. And then even for the automatic no's, it's, all right, how do I communicate that in a way that I don't just, kind of shut the door on people and have them kind of get ticked off that I just was very, kind of dismissive of them. So it's meeting in the middle, understanding, all right, what's an opportunity that might be worth exploring.
The visual that I have is, like, if your business is a vehicle and you're looking to take it from, like, and you're road tripping that vehicle, you're getting from one destination to the other. Let's just say you have a vehicle, it's in Los Angeles and it's going to New York. And then someone says, like, I can help you get there faster. Like, no, I'm just following my thing. It's like, well, I have 2 suggestions. I'd like to ride shotgun with you. I'd like to have this, but I will turbocharge your car, and I'll show you shortcuts to get there, saving you time and getting you there faster at more velocity. Would you, like, for me, I'd be like, okay, because that's in alignment of the goal. But people will completely dismiss that and not hear that out. We're like, oh, well, how can you? So in other words, like, how can you turbocharge my business, and where it's a win-win?
Yeah.
And how can we get to my goal quicker, like LA to New York? How can we do that? And so if you're hearing that and the math checks out, you're not jumping right in. You want to make sure that there's a clear payoff. There's a probability of success. And if it checks out, like, I think you'd be dumb to not do it. Like, that's, I was that saying, like, fortune favors the bold. So if you have a CEO that's like, all right, this, I wasn't expecting it. It came across our lap. I talked to my team. I got a slide deck. I vetted everything. Wasn't in the plan, but now we're doing it. Yeah. And oh my God, like, what a good choice. And man, I was very close to being just closed off to it just because someone else told me I should.
There you go.
I don't like that.
No, I love it. All right, guys. So we went through a lot, and I'm sure probably some of you sitting out there saying, oh man, I got this thing that I've heard that really, grinds my gears or pisses me off or frustrates me. Obviously I'd love you guys get through the episode. If you're going on YouTube, drop some comments. Like, what are some stuff that maybe you hear, either on social media or, you know, whatever, somebody who's that guru and just maybe disagree with what they're saying. But, you know, these are some of the things that we found. There's always, you know, have to be adaptable, be flexible. Don't take things for just face value. And honestly, you got to do what works for you. So love this episode, dude. Anything you want to leave the audience off with?
Yes. Be bold. Get after it. I love opportunities. Sometimes the universe or God or whatever you want to think, throw some really good things in your direction. And you have to have the right discernment to figure out what you need to say no to stay locked in and what you need to be open to. That means that you have to be a versatile person.
Love it.
Cool.
All right. Awesome.
Until next time.
See you guys next time.